I just want to say before we get started that SEIJIHITO, don't condone any of the madness of the articles of which that I'm going to read directly off to you. Again, it's a shame that I have to specifically state this because we got a lot of nonsensical people out here and others that just want to try to, oh, look, this person is advocating for X, Y, and Z. Actually, I'm not. I'm reading off the articles, having a conversation and a topic dealing with the articles, and that's pretty much it.
Live in Belton. Both sides made opening arguments today in day one of the trial against Caysen Allison. Allison is accused of the stabbing death of former Belton High School classmate Joe Ramirez of back in 2022. Now, I got to sit in the courtroom today while witnesses made their statements.
Justice for Joe. We miss him. We love you.
That was the feeling from friends and family of Joe Ramirez. While I was in the courtroom, prosecutors played 5 phone calls made to 911. 4 were made by staff and students on the school grounds, including some who told dispatchers there was, quote, lots of blood in the main hallway. A student leaving the school told 911 they could see Allison running through the parking lot and driving away. After those calls, prosecutors also showed video surveillance from inside the school the morning the stabbing happened. It shows Joe Ramirez and a few of his friends walking into the boys' bathroom and Allison walking in with one of his friends moments later. The victim and his friends run out before taking off through the hallways. The video goes on to show Ramirez turning the corner and stumbling to the ground with blood tracking down the school's main hallway. The school's director of safety and security told the court that's when campus went into lockdown and teachers and nurses were seen giving life-saving efforts to Ramirez. A nearby teacher also testified about hearing, quote, really loud yelling and banging, and then witnessed, quote, a student had a hand on his chest and blood drops on the floor. She also told the jury she told a custodian to not clean up the blood because it was, quote, a crime scene. I got the chance to talk with one of Ramirez's friends, James Sandoval. He tells me he wants people to remember Joe as a sweet, loving, funny guy. I asked Sandoval what it was like for him to see the video of his friend losing his life.
It's tough. It's really tough. Yeah, emotions were high when that video was gone, you know. That you can't, just watch them just bleed out.
Now, the defense says Caysen was in the fight of his life and that he was jumped by 5 classmates, calling it a group beatdown. They also say that while we mourn Ramirez, we're not here to feel sorry for a victim, and that, quote, nothing good happens in a boy's bathroom. Now, I did mention surveillance video. While that surveillance video in the school played, it was definitely emotional for Ramirez's family. Allison has pleaded not guilty, and testimony will continue tomorrow. We'll give you all the updates when we learn more.
Right. So we were able to hear that. Pink said, did I see the press conference? If you're talking about for Carmelo and with his mom, I saw a little bit of it. I do have a clip of it. If I technically need to play it, but I do have a clip directly of that. Bushido, what is up? What is up? What is up? Georgia Sweet said, if that defendant walks, then Carmelo should be acquitted. Well, we don't know specifically what's going to take place with this story, but just to give a little bit of a refresher, we're going to go directly over the article. It says that the murder trial of high school student who admitted to stabbing his classmate and taking his life kicked off in Texas this week. Caysen Allison, now 21, confessed to taking the life of Jose Luis Ramirez Jr., age 18, during a fight in the boys' bathroom at Belton High School back in May 3rd of 2022. Allison's lawyer, Zachary Boyd, stated that in an opening statement that the then 18-year-old acted in self-defense after finding himself forced to fight Ramirez and a group of his friends. Allison, who has been on house arrest ever since posting a $175K bail back in July of 2022, is now facing anywhere between 5 and 99 years in prison if convicted. The murder trial began with opening statements on Monday, and Tuesday's jurors were shown videos of the incident that one of Ramirez's friends recorded inside the bathroom. The video allegedly shows Ramirez throwing a punch at Allison and Allison responding by swinging at Ramirez with a knife in his hand. In that allegedly ends with Ramirez cornered before the teenagers all run out of the bathroom. The arrest affidavit details the aftermath of the fight. Ramirez manages to leave the bathroom, but is seen on school surveillance video collapsing in the hallway a short time later. The school nurse, then started to perform life-saving measures on Ramirez, who was then transported to a local hospital where he was later pronounced deceased. Affidavit also notes that Ramirez had been stabbed in the chest, back, legs, and arms. Allison left the school and returned home after the fight and was arrested a short time later. The knife was recovered with, how can I put this? Fluid, basically found directly on it, and that knife was located at Allison's home. Court records show that an additional charge was filed against Allison a few days later on May 9th after he allegedly assaulted a family member. Allison has entered a plea of not guilty, and the trial is expected to last through next week. A lot of white people out here like to make it seem as though that racism or these far right or these fringe groups or racist behaviors don't exist in America, but yet here we are. And the guy himself, the student, the kid, whatever, he said himself that this is what he was trying to do for America. But for whatever reason, I don't hear patriots talking about this. I don't hear the flag wavers talking about this. But matter of fact, let's go directly into the clip.
Alleged plan to overthrow the federal government and assassinate President Trump. The 17-year-old is charged with murder in the deaths of his stepmother, his mother, and stepfather. So let's bring in ABC's Melissa Adon. And Melissa, you're learning the FBI now believes there may be others who were aware of this alleged plot.
Mary, yes, these new federal documents are showing that the government is considering possible conspiracy charges. This against 17-year-old Nikita Casap and also the others who they say had some knowledge about the alleged extremist plot. The FBI says the Wisconsin teen allegedly murdered his parents and was motivated by white supremacy with extremist neo-Nazi views in order to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary to kill President Trump and overthrow the government. Well, federal affidavits say that Casap was in contact with others who appear to have been aware of his plan and actions and also provided assistance. This including a couple of people overseas, as well as another person who Casap allegedly told that he was going to go on a spree of violence. Mary?
A bizarre and troubling story, Melissa. Thank you.
Right, so we heard that. So now we're going to go a little bit more with the article. It says that a teenager has been accused of taking the life of his parents so he could obtain the financial means to go after the sitting president, Donald Trump, and overthrow the United States government, according to the FBI. Nikita Casap, age 17 from Wisconsin, was charged last month with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide following the deaths of his mother, Tatiana Casap, and his stepfather, Donald Mayer. The county district's attorney, Leslie Bosey, stated that Casap took the life of his mother and aimed at her at least 3 times, twice in the stomach and once in the neck on February 11th. Prosecutors stated that the teen took the life of Mr. Mayer by aiming directly at him in the back of the head at the same day. Casap allegedly went to the school the next day and continued to live at the home with the bodies until February 23rd. Authorities allege he fled with $14,000 in cash, passports, and the family dog. Ms. Casap and Mr. Mayer's bodies were both found in the state of decay on February 28th after Mayer's mother, who had not heard from him in weeks, called the sheriff's office for a welfare check. Casap was arrested the same day after 800 miles away from his Wisconsin home. The teenager, who is in custody at the county jail in Wisconsin on a $1 million bond, is due in court next month to enter a plea. He is also facing 2 counts of hiding a corpse, a charge of regarding theft of property over $10,000, and 2 charges of misappropriating identity to obtain money. More details about the allegations against Casap have now emerged after they were outlined in an FBI warrant, which was unsealed on Friday. It states that Casap allegedly wrote a manifesto calling for going after President Donald Trump. Quote, he was in touch with other parties about his plans to go after the president and overthrow the government. The killing of his parents appeared to be an effort to obtain the financial means and the autonomy necessary to carry out his plans. It also alleges that Casper outlined reasons for wanting to go after the president in 3-page anti-Semitic manifesto praising a certain German ruler. The warrant filed at a federal court in Milwaukee also contains excerpts of communications on TikTok and a Telegram messenger app. In court, prosecutors allege that Casper was in touch with a person who speaks Russian and shared the plan to flee to the Ukraine. Federal prosecutors allege the manifesto included ideas about how he would live in the war-torn country. Citing Casper's writing, the federal warrant states that the teenager wanted to spur government collapse by, quote, getting rid of the president and perhaps the vice president. Casper's public defender, Nicole Otrotsky, moved to dismiss some of the charges, including theft, against her client last month. She argued that prosecutors had not laid out their case. She has also noted that her client's age during the proceedings. He is young. He is still in high school, she said on March 12th. Meanwhile, prosecutors stated that in court that Ms. Casper and Mr. Mayer's bodies were so badly decomposed that they had to be identified through dental records. So again, that was just one part, right? I got a whole nother article outlining something else that they didn't want to talk about as well, which is quite crazy. And again, like I said before, it's a little bit amazing to me that when it deals with the Carmelo Anthony case, that white people are online right now still going crazy. They're trying to monitor, oh, this money, this, and this money, that. Look at what they're buying. Look at what they're spending, yada, yada, yada. Oh, look at the bail. This is egregious. This is outrageous. We already just had one case where one bail was $1 million. We had another case where another bail was $172K. And in both cases, you have people that took the lives of individuals, but yet I do not see white Americans, true blue patriotic Americans, the ones that say that, oh, we love this country, we're going to take it back out. I don't see them getting up in arms about the loss of life that is taking place here. And again, these stories here have nothing to do with anybody black. That's the only common denominator that I can pick up on of why it is that these stories aren't being just, really talked about as much as one other story, right? Because if, quote unquote, like a lot of people like to say that all lives matter, then that means that all stories should also matter. But I guess stories only matter when it depends on the color of the quote unquote perpetrator, right? But I really thought that this story would be highlighted due to the fact that this white kid wanted to go after a sitting president to cause chaos in the country, right? Wanted to, try to cause an upheaval, probably even a race war, like some people like to say. But I know a lot of people like to say that black people are the most racist people directly out here. No problem. I got you. So let's go to another article that highlights how problematic this is. It says white supremacist Telegram network allegedly inspired teen accused of taking the life of his parents and plotting to go after a sitting president. A Wisconsin teenager accused of taking the life of 2 family members and plotting to go after President Trump was inspired by Telegram, a white supremacist network that operated on the Telegram messaging and social media platform for half a decade. Now, I want to note that half a decade. I thought this was something that was just created. This was going on half a decade. That's a pretty long time. The Telegram community, which has been linked to around 36 criminal cases around the globe, including at least 3 mass incidences, was profiled last month in stories and documentaries produced by ProPublica and Frontlines. The court documents allege that Nikita Casper, a 17-year-old from Wisconsin, wrote 3-page manifesto calling for, going after Trump in order to, quote, foment a political revolution in the United States and save the white race from, quote unquote, Jewish controlled politicians. In his manifesto, Casper allegedly encouraged people to read the writings of Jura Krajik. I might have mispronounced that. Please excuse me. I think it might be Russian or something. A longtime Telegram figure who murdered 2 people in an attack on the LGBTQ plus bar in Slovakia in 2022, according to court documents. Casap also allegedly recommended 2 publications produced by the Telegram Collective, a secretive group that produced alleged hit list videos and written publications, including instructions for building bombs and sabotaging critical infrastructures and distributing them throughout the Telegram ecosystem. Launched in 2019, Telegram was a constellation of scores of Telegram channels and chat groups focused on inciting acts of white supremacist terrorism and anti-government sabotage. At the network's peak, some Telegram channels drew thousands of followers. Over the past 6 months, however, the network has been disrupted as authorities in Canada and the United States and Europe have arrested key Telegram influencers and community members, but the violence has not stopped. Casap in February allegedly took the lives of both his mother and stepfather and stole their property and fled in their Volkswagen Atlas. He was arrested in Kansas. Prosecutors have charged the teen with 2 counts of first-degree homicide as well as identity theft and theft charges. He is expected to be arraigned on May 7th. A witness stated to local investigators that Casap was in touch with a male Russian through the Telegram app and were planning to overthrow the United States government and go after President Trump. The newly unsealed federal court filings indicate that the FBI is investigating Casap in connection to the alleged plot against Trump. Last fall, federal prosecutors accused 2 Americans of also acting as leaders of the Telegram Collective and charged them with soliciting the murder of federal officials and a host of other terrorism-related offenses. The United States Department has officially designated the Telegram Collective as a terrorist organization, as have officials in the United Kingdom and Australia. The 2 Americans have pleaded not guilty to those charges. Not right. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. So now we're going to go to another. Well, actually, I'm going to save that clip. Right. So we're going to go to the whole case that everybody knows, just to catch everybody up to speed dealing with the whole thing with Carmelo Anthony. We're going to go with the old, news clip directly out there, just in case, I don't know, some people might not know about it.
Accused of fatally stabbing his son at a high school track meet. Police are now revealing what led to the terrifying moment. Here's ABC's Andrea Fujii.
New details about the killing of Austin Metcalf, the student stabbed at a high school track meet near Dallas. According to the arrest affidavit, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony has confessed to the killing, saying he was trying to protect himself.
He knew how much I loved him, how much I do for him, I do anything for him.
Hunter Metcalf says he held his twin brother Austin as he was dying.
I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest. So.
It happened at the district championship meet in Frisco. Hunter says his brother had asked Carmelo to move his seat because he was sitting under the wrong tent. A witness says Carmelo replied, "Touch me and see what happens." And when Austin grabbed him, Carmelo allegedly pulled a knife.
They asked him to move, and when Austin grabbed his backpack to move, take it, he stabbed him in the chest and killed him.
He's now charged with first-degree murder.
Just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore, and I don't understand it.
Austin is being remembered as an honors student with aspirations to play college football. Despite the shocking loss, Austin's father says he chooses forgiveness over anger.
I forgive the other person because the forgiveness is not for him. The forgiveness is for me, so I can have peace. His life is destroyed. My life is destroyed.
The arrest affidavit says as Carmelo Anthony was being arrested, he asked if Austin was okay. Anthony is being held on $1 million bond.
So now we're going to go to another story that I don't really hear white people talking about, and this just actually recently happened. This smiling, bright, penny's worth of a fellow that you see here. If you don't know who I'm referring to the clown It. He's sitting down there smiling, and he is a suspect in a Florida State college campus incident that just happened. And oddly enough, this white student that you see directly in front of you, his parents work in law enforcement. Color me surprised. And this is also how he got his hands directly on a weapon. But, It'd be like that, I guess. But let's see what the police have to say about this, and then we'll go directly over the article.
Our deepest condolences go out to the FSU family, the families of the students who are here. And we understand that you all have been devastated because of this person's actions. The question as it relates to who is the shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Ikner. And he's the son of a Leon County Sheriff deputy. Our deputy Ikner, has been with the Leon County Sheriff's Office for over 18 years. She has a tremendous job that she's done. Her service to this community has been exceptional. Unfortunately, her son had access to one of her weapons, and that was one of the weapons that was found at the scene. And we will continue that investigation into how that weapon was used and what other weapons perhaps he may have had access to. The alleged shooter was also a long-standing member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Citizen Advisory or Youth Advisory Council. So he has been steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family, engaged in a number of training programs that we have. So it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons. This event is tragic in more ways than you people in the audience could ever fathom from a law enforcement perspective. But I will tell you this, we will make sure that we do everything we can to prosecute and make sure that we send a message to folks that this will never be tolerated here in Leon County, and I dare say across this state and across this nation.
Right? So we got this college student that decided, white college student decided that he just wanted to take some lives just for no reason. Just for no reason, right? So let's read what they got to say about this. They said a Florida State University student accused of taking the life of 2 people and injuring 5 others in an incident at a university on Thursday is the son of a local sheriff's deputy authority state and spent time training with law enforcement and serving on a sheriff's advisory council in years before his alleged attack. So again, this is more than likely premeditated. He knew what he wanted to do, but he knew he had to train in order to do the things that he wanted to do. He knew that he had to masquerade. Right? He had to dress up and pretend to be something so that people would overlook and not question if he may try to do something later on with the information and the training. Also states that when he was taken into custody after being injured by university police, Phoenix Ikner, age 20, was carrying a handgun that used to be a service weapon for Sheriff's Deputy Jessica Ikner. A review of court records shows that Phoenix Ikner had a tumultuous childhood with another woman identified in the documents as his biological mother, accused of removing him from the U.S. in violation of a custody agreement when he was 10 years of age. Sheriff Walter McNeil told reporters that the suspect was steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family and engaged in a number of training programs that we have, so it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons. Jessica Ikner has served at the sheriff's, Jessica Ikner has served at the sheriff's department for more than 18 years. McNeil also stated and added that, quote, her service to the community has been exceptional. She did not respond to requests for comments. Phoenix Ikner was a member of the Sheriff's Youth Advisory Council, which is designated to provide an open line of communication between the youth of Leon County and local law enforcement. And on Instagram, an account with Ikner's name and photo was taken offline after he was publicly identified, including a Bible quote on his profile that said, "You are my war club, my weapon for battle. With you, I shatter nations. With you, I destroy kingdoms." Ikner is a registered Republican. Color me surprised. According to the Florida voter registration records, he was quoted in January in an FSU student newspaper article about anti-Trump protests in advance of the president's inauguration. Quote, these people are usually pretty entertaining, usually not for good reasons. I think it's a little too late. He, when talking about Trump, already going to be inaugurated on January 20th, which this would actually stop scrolling, on January 20th, and there's not really much you can do unless you outright revolt. And I don't think anybody wants that. On Thursday, university police aimed at Ikner after he didn't comply with commands from officers. The Tallahassee police chief, Lawrence, also stated that he added he did not believe Ikner fired at officers. Ikner was hospitalized with serious but non-life-threatening injuries, and he invoked his right to not speak when he was taken into custody. Ikner is a junior political science major at Florida State University. Spokesperson Stephen Stone stated, also noting that Ikner had transferred to FSU for the spring semester from Tallahassee State College. He received an associate's degree from Tallahassee State in December from Tallahassee State in December. They also stated that Ikner was asked to leave a political club due to unsettling behaviors. They said that an FSU student stated that he knew Ikner, whom he encountered in an extracurricular political club a few years back. Saybold stated that Ikner was asked to leave the group, which discussed current events due to behaviors that unsettled others. Quote, he had continually made enough people uncomfortable where certain people had stopped coming. That's kind of when we reached the breaking point with Phoenix, and we asked him to leave. Saybold also stated that Ikner's comments went beyond conservatism. Quote, it's been a couple of years now. I can't give exact quotes. He talked about the ravages of multiculturalism and communism and how it's ruining America. Leon County court records show that Ikner's biological mother was accused of taking him to Norway when he was 10 years of age. In violation of custody agreement, the court documents referred to the child as Christian Erickson and stated that he and his biological mother are both dual U.S. Norwegian citizens. The shooting suspect later changed his name from Christian Erickson to Phoenix Ikner. According to an affidavit from sheriff's detectives, the child's biological mother told his father that she would take him to South Florida for the spring in March of 2015. Instead, she fled the country with him in violation of their custody agreement, taking him to Norway. The suspect's biological mother pled no contest to removing the minor from the state against court orders. She was sentenced to 200 days in jail, 170 of which she had already served, followed by 2 years of community control and then 2 years of probation, according to court records. She was also ordered to have a no contact during her sentence with her son or any of his teachers, doctors, and or counselors unless allowed by the courts. She later moved to vacate her plea, stating that she had made it under duress. It's unclear whether the suspect's biological mother had any contact with him over the last decade, and she did not respond to requests for comment. But just after the incident, she posted on Facebook complaining that her son's dad hadn't responded when she wrote to ask if everything is all right with her son, who studied at FSU. Community members are still stating that they're struggling with reconciling with Phoenix Ikner's ties to the police force and his alleged attack on campus. So this is the issue, and this is what I specifically wanted to point out. So we have 3 individuals who are Caucasian, and they decided for whatever reasons that they wanted to take lives, that they wanted to try and take lives. And for whatever reason, no matter the severity of the situations, and each one of them goes at least from level 1 all the way to 3, no matter the severity of those situations dealing with those white boys there, you don't hear a far-reaching screech, an echo chamber, or an outcry from a lot of the white Americans directly out here who want to state that we have problems directly in this society, but primarily they only want to point out problems when the face of said situation that they can blame and pin something directly on that is negative is black. So again, you have a lot of white folks talking about the Carmelo Anthony situation and what happened there. You have a lot of people that want to go directly online. I showcased this directly on the live stream from yesterday. Shout out to anybody who made it to that live stream. I showcased yesterday how you had a lot of folks out there that want to say, oh, all lives matter, white lives matter, and this, that, and the third, and whites are under attack, and all these other things. And I'm just trying to understand when at any point in time in the history of the United States were white people ever under such attack that they just needed to start grouping up. They needed to really start banding together. I can't really point to you a point in time in history where white people were just under attack from the black majority out here, and the black majority was just deep diving into their communities, burning them down, burning crosses, throwing pipe bombs, and making rules and regulations against them, and all of these. Again, it's just something that has never happened. It never existed because black people are not a majority in this country. Because of the issue dealing with race of this situation, you have a lot of people out there, both paid and not paid, both popular and unpopular, who specifically only want to speak and highlight this story because of race, because they know that they can get a type of monies, that they can get a type of support if they happen to go with the narrative that, quote unquote, black people are the problem. Black people are violent. Black people are this. Black people are that. And a lot of these people have never understood or heard the whole totality of the story, any or everything that specifically went down, was said, or happened. But yet, automatically, Carmelo Anthony, by white opinion, by the white public out here, have automatically deemed him as guilty. They would never allow him the possibility of trying to prove his innocence because in their mind it was like, oh, you went after one of ours, no problem, you're guilty, and we're going to put you directly underneath the jail and the prison, and that's it. Like I said, it's crazy. And these are the actual people who are more so focused on race versus how it is that they would like to portray this when it deals with the black community directly out here. And again, you also have social media and you have the news who are part of the exact same coin who wants to make sure to push this race narrative in order to enable a type of theory or ideology of, yes, this race war is actually happening, this, that, and the third, when realistically it's not, and it's never been. The only way that any type of war is going to take place and happen if it's by the hands of the white majority. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I stated in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.